This is Get Real and Heal for high-performing women executives and entrepreneurs, where we discuss all things emotional healing and the relationships with yourself, your man, and your money. I'm your host, Jamila McMallow, wife, mother, certified cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner, mindset and relationship expert with over 20 years coaching and mentoring experience. I know that when you're the one that everyone else leans on, the leader and the trailblazer, it can be difficult to let your guard down, be vulnerable, and tend to your own emotions. So I hope today's discussion will allow you a moment to experience a life-changing realization, perhaps even a transformation. So let's begin and get real and heal. Hey. So we are talking about how to really be open to being in a new relationship, how to be willing to invest the time and energy into a new relationship without feeling like you're going to just lose everything that you've worked so hard for. So I want to share a little bit of a story with you. Last year we bought a Volvo XC90, brand new. I love that car. It's gorgeous. But we recently took it in for some maintenance, and it was an interesting experience because we got an email from the technician that actually worked on our car, and I found it so it was like a new experience because I'm like, okay, never got an email from a technician, a mechanic working on my car. And in the email was a link to a video. And in this video is the mechanic walking around the car and talking to us about all the different systems, showing us him checking the tire pressure, him explaining, the condition that everything is in, everything that he checked, and really just going over, all the different systems. And, I was very impressed by that. And I'll tell you why. As a woman, especially when we take a car in, we expect, okay, I know I'm getting taken advantage of because I don't know what y'all talking about, whatever. But I know when I was single, I was like, whatever, I'm just going to pay. I don't care. Is my car going to run? That's all I care about. I can't be trying to figure out if you're trying to, get one over on me or whatever. But that's how most of us feel when we take our car in, is we feel like somewhere, some way, they're overcharging me, or whatever. And with him sending this video, what it did was it engendered a sense of trust in him and in the dealership. See, the dealership knows that when you go to buy a Volvo, you're coming in there, you're going to drop 60 to 90K in a new car, but they don't want you to just buy that car and leave. They want to build a relationship because they know you're going to want to buy another car eventually. And they also want you to bring that car back there to be serviced. And so the experience that you have when you go to the Volvo dealership is not the same as when you go to the Hyundai dealership. We had Hyundais before, and not saying it wasn't, nice and friendly and all those things, but it wasn't like that. It was an elevated experience. The old adage is true. You get what you pay for. But my point in sharing that with you is that what that technician did, what that specific Volvo dealership did, was they made me feel important and special. And so, of course, I'm going to be taking my car back there, to get, if it ever, for whatever, oil changes, if it ever needs repairs, any of that. And if I decide to buy another Volvo in the future, of course, I'm going back to that dealership. Why wouldn't I? I have this positive relationship with them. Now, what even in the first place led me to choosing the Volvo brand and ultimately having this amazing experience with a great company? Well, it really literally goes back to childhood. We grew up with Volvos. In fact, we had a Volvo station wagon that my parents bought like a year after I was born. And we drove that Volvo all over the continent and United States. We, lived in Michigan. We drove to California. We drove to Florida. We drove to Louisiana to see my grandparents like 2 or 3 times a year. So we drove that car. My parents bought that car new and they drove it into the ground. It was like over 20 years old when they finally, just had to junk it and get rid of it. But I had the conclusions that I drew about that car from childhood, having experienced it, was number one, it was a positive experience. It was associated with a lot of good memories. And what I knew about the brand is that it was safe, it lasted a long time, and it was high quality. So, when it comes to buying cars, cars are not typically viewed as assets. As soon as you drive the car off the lot, it's going to depreciate. I mean, unless you're doing like a Turo type thing or a car service, cars aren't typically viewed as assets. But, I looked at this car as if I was investing, because what I really was investing in was an experience, an elevated driving experience, an elevated feeling of safety, more space to transport our family. And then, of course, how it makes me feel when I'm in it, driving it, and when I look at it, right? So that's what I'm investing in, is how it makes me feel and the experience that I'm having with this car. So now you might be saying, now what you talking about cars? And we supposed to be talking about me and Jamila. We supposed to be talking about relationships. Well, I chose the Volvo brand because I had a familiar positive experience with it in my childhood. Now, what's happening when it comes to new relationships, a lot of the reason why some of you are feeling hesitation and trepidation about it, and are like, you know what, I'm just going to keep working. I'm just going to keep making money. And, if a man comes along, great. And if not, and if not, be real with yourself. And if not, that's not okay with you. And why should it be? Why do you just have to be content with being alone? Why does that have to be like, it's this all or nothing thing? Why can't you have both? You absolutely can have both, but you got to change the way you're looking at it. And like I said, the reason why you're hesitating is because of your previous relationship history, probably recent. You've had men that have wasted your time, men who don't commit, men who are toxic. And to some extent, you're just like, I'm over it. I don't have, another 5 years to waste in a relationship with a man who's not going to marry me, or another year to get over that when he breaks up with me and I find out he's cheating. I don't have another 2 years to clean up my credit after he done messed up my finances because I co-signed it. Come on. Okay. So there was a step that got missed. And that was step one. And step one was choosing wisely. So that is how you can be open to investing in a new relationship, to being in a new relationship, is by choosing wisely, choosing a good man right from the start. And yes, there are absolutely literal things that you can do in order to know if he is a good man, and number two, the right man for you, because he could be a good man, but he might not be the right man for you. And it's interesting because I actually teach these things in my 5-day challenge, my 5-day Find Mr. Right challenge, and I'll share the details with you a little bit on that at the end of this discussion. But my point is that the reason why you're not choosing wisely is because, similar to how I had an experience in childhood that gave me an idea of what to expect from the Volvo brand, and it delivered according to my expectation. Some of you have had some very negative experiences when it comes to men when you were little girls. It could have been the relationship that you had or didn't have with your father. It could have been how you saw your mother treated in her relationships with men. It could have been the fact that perhaps you were victimized in some way by men, okay? And so those experiences taught you what to expect. Because as little girls, we don't have the context or the maturity to understand adult things. So we draw conclusions to make sense of it, and we make them very black and white. So if your dad was a liar, all men are liars. If your dad was a cheater, all men are cheaters. If you saw your mom being abused and your dad wasn't good to her either, then all men can't be trusted. Okay, all of those things. And even in a case where you maybe had a good dad and you're going out into the world saying, I want a man that's just like my dad, and you keep attracting men and the relationships aren't working out, here's a news flash for you. Those men are just like your dad. Because when you're a daughter, a man can be a great father, but he might not be the best husband. And no matter who he is, he's not perfect. He has negative qualities. And so if you're looking for a man that's just like your father, then you're looking for a man that possesses his negative qualities, which you may not be experiencing in the capacity of a romantic partner because you're his daughter. And so when you get into a relationship with a man who possesses the negative qualities of your father, you may not find that attractive. It's familiar, but you may not like it. Okay? So our brain is attracted to what's familiar based on what we experienced as little girls, based on the conclusions or the beliefs that we formed from those experiences. And so what happened is you had those negative experiences, and more so how those experiences made you feel. So that's what you came to expect to feel from a relationship with a man. It's not that you go out into the world and say, hey, I'm looking for a guy to mistreat me. No. Consciously, you say, I want a man that's going to be this, that, and the other thing. But then you just keep ending up with the same kind of dude. He don't want to commit, or why he ain't working, or he's always distracted, so focused on his career, he never has time for me. If you pause, make a hard stop, and cycle it back to your childhood and think about, when is the first time I ever had a man make me feel that way? When is the first time my dad made me feel that way? Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting to the root. So those experienced caused you to draw conclusions that led to the formations of beliefs that led you to expect men to make you feel a certain way. And so therefore you go out into the world as an adult and you choose men that make you feel a certain way. So if you want to be able to choose wisely, you have to change what your brain expects your experience to be like with men. You have to change that. You have to change your beliefs about what you believe to be true and possible for you and in your relationships with men. Okay? It is not all men. It is not these men. It is not any of those things. It is what you believe to be true and possible for you with regards to yourself and in your relationships with men. And when you change that, okay, when you change those beliefs and you begin to believe something else to be true and possible for you, like a man making you feel safe, a man making you feel loved, a man making you feel protected, a man making you feel like he's going to be there when you need him, a man making you feel like you can be vulnerable and soft and feminine and all the things you want to be, but you feel like you can't because you can't trust the men that you've been choosing. So, just like I shared, I'm repeating it again, just like I had that experience growing up around the Volvo brand, I had a positive expectation, and that was my experience. Just like you perhaps grew up with some negative messaging around men, some negative experiences, you grew up and that's what you have gone on to expect from them, and you have chosen men who have given you the experience that you have expected to have. Your brain is in the business of proving you right. It is attracted to what is familiar, not what is good for you. That's why we always have to start with ourselves and do that deep dive into our thinking and our mindset and into our beliefs, and specifically our limiting beliefs, because they're limiting us. They're limiting you. They're keeping you from having the love and relationship that you not only desire, but you're deserving of, okay? So you absolutely can be open to being in a new relationship and feel good about investing the time and energy when you choose wisely right from the start. Okay? So the key is you just have to choose wisely. Now, if you don't know how to choose wisely, that's a conversation that we can have. But that's the key. So if you don't trust yourself to choose wisely, then yes, your hesitation, makes perfect sense. But once you can learn the tools and you do the deep inner work to shift your beliefs and now trust yourself to choose wisely, and not saying you're just going to blindly go into a relationship. Like, there's one thing I teach during my 5-day challenge. It's the 50 most potent and powerful questions that you can ask a man to determine if he's Mr. Right for you in the first 2 to 3 conversations, and maybe even sooner than that. But it's really powerful because there's just no need to continue a relationship with a man when you are seeing red flags up front. I would say 10 out of 10 times the relationships that you've been in that have led to heartbreak, you had red flags, you felt something in your gut, and you ignored it. And there are reasons why you ignored it, okay? And that's because ultimately what was familiar is what you were being attracted to, what you were being drawn to. Even though you knew it wasn't good for you, it's what you wanted. It's what your brain was wanting, thought you wanted, basically. It's what you're attracted to because it's what is familiar to you. So I hope that wasn't too deep for you, just in a quick 15, 20-minute conversation. But it's important for you to understand that, because listen, this is what I am teaching. I'm not teaching you tips and tricks. I'm not jumping in on these stupid conversations about why this and why that. Who cares? Tell me how to solve my problem. Those are the women I'm for. If you want to know how to solve your relationship problems once and for all, I'm your girl, or your woman, however, whatever. I mean, that's it. And it's getting to the root. It's getting to the beliefs. It's getting to the bottom of it. It's not all this other junk that's out there, which is just a whole bunch of fluff and people blowing in your, smoke in your ears and telling you stuff that you want to hear, but they're not telling you the truth. And they're not really getting to the root and the bottom of it. And I just feel so strongly and passionately about this, because I believe that every good woman that wants to be married to a good man should be, and she can, as long as she's willing to do the work to let go of the conditioning that has told her that she can't have it, that it's not possible, or that it doesn't exist. And you may consciously be positive and hopeful, but what's happening in your belief, on the beliefs level? What's happening in your subconscious? What is your brain really attracted to? Okay, that's where we have to start, and that's where the work has to take place. So I promised you that I was going to share with you a little bit about my challenge. It is my Find Mr. Right 5-day challenge. You can learn more about it by visiting findmrrightchallenge.com. That's findmrrightchallenge.com. There's no period after Mr. And yeah, in that challenge, we're going to spend 5 days together, and I'm going to be breaking down so much for you, like my neural attraction method, which is really all about, getting to the bottom of these beliefs that are keeping you from a good man. I'm going to be going over those 50 most powerful and potent questions, going to be talking about feminine energy and how to really harness that in a powerful way. And just more, there's so much more. So really, if this is of interest to you, I would love you to be there. If you're a highly successful single woman who really desires to be married to a good man, you should be in the room. I would love to meet you and interact with you and really, help you through this challenge. So I want to thank you for listening into this episode, and I look forward to sharing more with you next time. Be sure to not only subscribe to this podcast, but also my YouTube channel. And you'll find all of the links to my social media at the bottom of my website, CoachJamila.com. Take care. Visit CoachJamila.com, where you'll find the links to connect with me on social media and more information on my private coaching for high-performing women.